and it has so many revealing stuff. And one of such revealing stuff is what I'm going to read for all of us today. It's about the four enemies, four natural enemies. So this is what Don Juan is communicating to Carlos Castaneda. Carlos Castaneda is the author of the teachings of Don Juan and so many other books. So he says that a man of knowledge is one who has followed truthfully the hardships of learning. A man who has, without rushing or without faltering, gone as far as he can in unraveling the secrets of power and knowledge. To become a man of knowledge, one must challenge and defeat his four natural enemies. When a man starts to learn, he is never clear about his objectives. His purpose is faulty, his intent is vague. He hopes for rewards that will never materialize, for he knows nothing of the hardships of learning. Now he slowly begins to learn, bit by bit at first, then in big chunks, and his thoughts soon clash. What he learns is never what he pictured or imagined, and so he begins to be afraid. Learning is never what one expects. Every step of learning is a new task, and the fear of the man is experiencing begins to mount mercilessly, unyieldingly. His purpose becomes a battlefield, and thus he has stumbled upon the first of his four natural enemies, which is fear. A terrible enemy, treacherous and difficult to overcome. It remains concealed at every turn of the way, prowling and waiting. And if the man, terrified in its presence, runs away, his enemy will have put an end to his quest and he will never learn. He will never become a man of knowledge. He will perhaps be a bully or a harmless, scared man. At any rate, he will be a defeated man. His first enemy, which is fear, will have put an end to his cravings. Therefore, he must not run away. He must defy his fear, and in spite of it, he must take the next step in learning, and the next, and the next. He must be fully afraid, and yet he must not stop. That is the rule. And a moment will come when his first enemy retreats. The man begins to feel sure of himself. His intent becomes stronger. Learning is no longer a terrifying task. When this joyful moment comes, the man can say without hesitation that he has defeated his first natural enemy. It happens little by little, and yet the fear is vanquished suddenly and fast. Once a man has vanquished fear, he is free from it for the rest of his life, because instead of fear, he has acquired clarity, a clarity of mind which erases fear. By then, a man knows his desires. He knows how to satisfy those desires. He can anticipate the new steps of learning, and a sharp clarity surrounds everything. The man feels that nothing is concealed, and thus he has encountered his second enemy, which is clarity. The clarity of mind, which is so hard to obtain, dispels fear, but also blinds. It forces the man never to doubt himself. It gives him the assurance he can do anything he pleases, for he sees clearly into everything. And he is courageous because he is clear. And he stops at nothing because he is clear. But all that is a mistake. It is like something incomplete. If the man yields to this make believe power, he has succumbed to his second enemy and will be patient when he should rush. And he will fumble with learning until he winds up incapable of learning anything more. His second enemy has just stopped him cold from trying to become a man of knowledge. Clarity, almost a mistake. He must do what he did with fear. He must defy his clarity and use it only to see and wait patiently and measure carefully before taking new steps. He must think, above all, that his clarity is almost a mistake. And a moment will come when he will understand that his clarity was only a point before his eyes. And thus he will have overcome his second enemy and will arrive at a position where nothing can harm him anymore. This will not be a mistake. It will be true power. He will know at this point that the power he has been pursuing for so long is finally his. He can do with it whatever he pleases. His ally is at his command. His wish is the rule. He sees all that is around him. But he has also come across his third enemy, which is power. Power is the strongest of all enemies, and naturally, the easiest thing to do is to give in. After all, the man is truly invincible. He commands. He begins by taking calculated risk and ends in making rules because he is a master. A man at this stage hardly notices his third enemy closing in on him, and suddenly, without knowing, he will certainly have lost the battle. His enemy will have turned him into a cruel, capricious man, but he will never lose his clarity or his power. A man who is defeated by power dies without really knowing how to handle it. Power is only a burden upon his fate. Such a man has no command over himself and cannot tell when or how to use his power. Once one of these enemies overpowers a man, there is nothing he can do. It is not possible, for instance, that a man who is defeated by power may see his error and mend his ways. If he is temporarily blinded by power and then refuses it, his battle is still on. That means he is still trying to become a man of knowledge. A man is defeated only when he no longer tries and abandons himself. He has to come to realize that the power he has seemingly conquered is in reality never his. He must keep himself in line at all times, handling carefully and faithfully all that he has learned. If he can see that clarity and power, without his control over himself, are worse than mistakes, he will reach a point where everything is held in check. He will know then when and how to use his power, and thus he will have defeated his third enemy. Now, the fourth enemy, the man will be by then at the end of his journey of learning, and almost without warning, he will come upon the last of his enemies, which is old age. This enemy is the cruelest of all, the one he won't be able to defeat completely, but only fight away. This is the time when a man has no more fears, no more impatient clarity of mind, a time when all his power is in check, but also the time when he has an unyielding desire to rest. If he gives in totally to his desire to lie down and forget, if he soothes himself in tiredness, he will have lost his last round, and his enemy will cut him down into a feeble old creature. His desire to retreat will overrule all his clarity, his power, and his knowledge. But if the man slows off his tiredness and lives his faith through, he can then be called a man of knowledge. If only for the brief moment when he succeeds in fighting off his last invincible enemy. That moment of clarity, power, and knowledge is enough. So wonderful, wonderful teachings, friends. It's the four natural enemies of for the man of knowledge. So the first enemy is the fear. Addressing the fears is very important, and and at that moment when we have fear, we can shift it to not having fear. So that is when we succeed in fighting the first enemy, and the second enemy is clarity. You know, like Clarity is sometimes, very confusing. We think that we have clarity. That means we know a lot, like we know everything. We know that this is it, this is, I have the clarity on this thing, this subject. But still, when you have that, you have to question so many times whether is the clarity that you have is right or not. So that is the second enemy that we have to defeat. We should not say that I know everything. Like, we have to question ourselves again and again that, uh, is it right, what I'm thinking is right, or the clarity I have attained on this subject is right or not. So we have to have this question so many times, so then only we have to take a step. And now the third enemy is power is again a very, like, it again pulls us down. If we look at it very carefully, it will pull us down, because it works with the ego. That means, power is nothing but responsibility. Sometimes we get carried away by the power, and this is why, one should always be like a Zen master. Like, we should do our things and just move from there, and not taking any credit, not taking any power that I have done this, or all of these things. Like, we should um, we should really we should really work on this subject called power, and that is the third enemy. We have to defeat our third enemy also. And the fourth thing is the old age. Like, many people will complain about old age, that, oh, I'm just 80 years, I'm 80 years old, and I'm so tired. So we should never resign. I always heard Patriji saying the same thing, saying the thing that, I asked him, why, sir, why do you move around? Like, why can't you be at one place, and why can't you give your lessons to everybody, so we all can come to you and learn from you? Then he said, till my last breath, I will go to each and every person, and I will share about meditation. That is what he said. So he never resigned. He never said that, oh, I cannot move my body, or I'm so tired. No, let me sit and relax and let everybody come to me. So he never did that. That means you're giving, you are defeated by the fourth enemy, that is old age. So we should never complain about the age that we are having. We just have to do things, always keep ourselves busy. Always, it's not just because to, like, to do something. It's again the energy, like, having a movement in life, doing something that we love is what is very important, and that is the energy. So this is the four enemies, friends. And this subject is very, very interesting, and we have to reread it again so many times, so that, like, it gets into us. When I read this long back, I was like very surprised to see, like, how come a clarity, like, we always say the clarity is a good thing, but, like, but here, the way Don John speaks about clarity is really amazing. And here he speaks about power. We see that power means, when we have a power, we can do anything. But his way of putting the power is very, very wonderful. And again, about old age. So, like, we being young, so we still say that, okay, I am so tired. I don't want to do anything. I just want to relax. So we should not give, um, we should not give our energy in that direction to resign. We should always have this, energy to lift us up and do some activities, so that we can always be in that high energy state. So it's really wonderful. So thank you for being here, friends. Thank you for listening. And if there is anything that you want to share, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself. Yeah, and I recommend everybody to read this book, The Teachings of Don John. It's really an eye opener. It's a very, very interesting book. Very interesting book. When you read it, it really is really amazing. So anybody else wants to share anything, friends? All right then. So we will all see each other again tomorrow morning. Till we see each other again, have a lovely, lovely day and a great evening, and keep smiling, celebrate life, and never forget these teachings. All right. Bye bye, friends. Namaste, all.
Bye bye, Madhuji. Bye bye.
Bye bye, Madhu.
Bye bye. Bye bye, everyone.